Full SCRIP. What if the biggest threat to electric cars wasn't a faster battery, a cheaper Tesla, or a breakthrough from some Silicon Valley startup, but a cup of water? Toyota just made an announcement that almost nobody saw coming. A car that runs on water. Not hydrogen stored in a tank. Not electricity pulled from a grid. Water, the kind you fill a glass with. And if what they're saying holds up, it doesn't just challenge electric vehicles. It rewrites the entire conversation about what the future of driving actually looks like. But here's the thing you need to know. Before we go any further, every single person who made this exact claim before Toyota, every inventor, every company, every government-backed visionary, ended up in one of two places, discredited or in handcuffs. So the question isn't really whether water can power a car. The question is, why is this time any different? And that answer is going to take you somewhere you probably didn't expect. Let's start with what Toyota actually said, because the claim itself is worth slowing down on. Through a process called electrolysis, their system takes ordinary water and splits it into its two components, hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen gets fed into the engine. When it burns, it combines back with oxygen and releases energy. The car moves. The only thing that comes out of the exhaust is water vapor. No carbon dioxide, no nitrogen oxides, no particulates, just clean, invisible steam. The man who stood up and said this out loud was Hideki Nakajima, Toyota's executive vice president and the company's top technology officer. He didn't say it quietly. He said it at a public event in Japan, flanked by the heads of Toyota's electric vehicle division and their hydrogen program. This was not a leaked memo. This was not a rumor. This was a company with a 100-year reputation putting its name behind the idea that water is the future of transportation. And somewhere in Palo Alto, Elon Musk's entire business model just became a question mark. But this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable. Because Toyota is not the first to say this. Not even close. Go back to 2008. A Japanese company called Genesis Facts held a press conference and told the world they had built a car that ran entirely on water. No gasoline, no diesel, just H2O. They demonstrated it. They had reporters watching. They had cameras rolling. The story spread everywhere. Then scientists looked closer. Turns out the car wasn't running on water alone. It needed a chemical compound called metal hydride to function. The water was part of the system, but not the whole story. The company's founder never produced hard evidence. Physicists pointed out what they always point out in these situations. Water is one of the most stable molecules in nature. Pulling energy out of it doesn't come for free. You have to put energy in to get energy out. That's not an opinion. That's thermodynamics. But Genesis Facts wasn't even the beginning. In the 1980s, an American inventor named Stanley Meyer told anyone who would listen that he had built a dune buggy that ran entirely on water. He toured the claim for years. He attracted investors. He got media coverage. Then in 1996, a court found him guilty of fraud. He had taken money from people who believed in something that never existed. In 2002, a company called Hydrogen Technology Applications claimed their device, they called it the Equigen, could split water and power a vehicle. Scientists weren't convinced. The company eventually admitted their device only made conventional cars slightly more fuel efficient, not water-powered, not even close. That same year, Genesis World Energy showed up promising a machine that could extract energy directly from water. They raised significant investment. No working vehicle ever appeared. Their founder, Patrick Kelly, was sentenced to prison for fraud in 2006. Then, in 2008, the same year, Toyota's competitor was making waves with their water car announcement. A singer from Sri Lanka named Tushara Rillit claimed he had driven a car 190 miles on just 3 liters of water. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister endorsed him publicly. The excitement lasted weeks. Then Tushara was arrested for fraud, and as recently as 2022, an Indonesian man named Ariano Mikul introduced something he called the Nakba, a device he said could power a motorcycle for 500 kilometers on a single liter of water. He claimed Lamborghini and Ferrari were calling him. Indonesian scientists said the device violated the laws of physics. The luxury car brands confirmed they had never heard of him. Every time, the same arc, a bold claim, a crowd of believers, then silence, scandal, or a courtroom. So when Toyota steps up and says, water is the future, you are allowed to be skeptical. In fact, skepticism is the only reasonable response until you look at what Toyota actually has, and that changes everything, because here's what none of those inventors had. A car already on the road. Toyota's Mirai has been in production since 2014. That's not a prototype sitting in a lab. That's a vehicle you could have bought a decade ago, driven to work, and filled up in 5 minutes at a hydrogen station. The name means future in Japanese, and for once, that kind of branding actually matched the product. The Mirai runs on a hydrogen fuel cell system. Hydrogen from onboard tanks combines with oxygen from the air. That chemical reaction generates electricity. The electricity drives the motor. The only emission is water vapor. It travels over 300 miles on a single tank. Refueling takes approximately 5 minutes, compared to the 30 minutes to several hours it takes to charge it. Comparable electric vehicle. Toyota has over 5,000 patents related to hydrogen technology. 5,000 covering fuel cell design, hydrogen storage, production methods, and the electrolyzer systems that sit at the heart of their water-powered vision. This is not a singer with a modified engine and a dream. This is a company that has spent 3 decades quietly building the infrastructure for a technology most people still don't take seriously, and now they're scaling it fast. This is the part of the story that most coverage misses entirely, and it's the part that matters most. Starting in mid-2024, Toyota opened a dedicated hydrogen manufacturing facility in Japan. Development, production, and commercial sales all operating under one roof. The goal is to eliminate the lag time between innovation and deployment. When the engineers solve a problem upstairs, the factory downstairs can respond within weeks instead of years. Their targets are specific enough to take seriously. By 2030, Toyota wants to have 200,000 fuel cell units sold. They're projecting the global fuel cell market to reach around £5.7 billion annually across Europe, China, and North America. To compete for that market, they need to cut the cost of their fuel cell stacks by 50% and reduce next-generation system costs by 37%. If the 200,000 unit target is hit, they project costs could drop by another 50% on top of that. Those aren't the numbers of a company experimenting. Those are the numbers of a company that has already made its decision, and the experiments they're running to get there. Some of them are genuinely strange. In Thailand, Toyota is partnering with local companies to convert chicken manure and food scraps into biogas, which is then used to produce hydrogen. It sounds almost absurd until you realize it's a closed-loop system that turns agricultural waste into zero-emission fuel. It's the kind of creative, lateral thinking that doesn't come from a company chasing headlines. It comes from engineers who have been living inside this problem for a very long time. But let's be honest about what Toyota is up against, because there's a reason electric vehicles became the dominant narrative. And it wasn't an accident. China went all in on EV. BYD, NIO, XPeng. These aren't startups anymore. They are industrial-scale manufacturers producing millions of electric vehicles every year, backed by government subsidies, a national charging infrastructure, and decades of battery supply chain investment. China's leadership made a strategic decision that electric vehicles were their path to energy independence and industrial dominance, and it worked. In the United States, Tesla transformed EVs from a niche product into a cultural statement. Elon Musk didn't just build a car company, he built a belief system around battery electric vehicles, supercharger networks, over-the-air software updates, the mythology of range and performance. The American EV narrative runs through Tesla, the way the space race ran through NASA. And yet, both the US and China are sitting on a problem they don't like talking about publicly. Lithium-ion batteries require mining. Cobalt, lithium, nickel extracted from the earth in processes that are environmentally destructive and, in some regions, deeply exploitative. The batteries degrade over time. Disposing of them safely is an unsolved problem at scale, and charging those batteries still requires electricity, which in most countries still comes significantly from fossil fuels. The car may be the system that powers it often isn't. Toyota's hydrogen approach bypasses all of that. No lithium mining, no battery degradation, no grid dependency. If the hydrogen is produced from renewable sources, hydrogen can be generated using solar, wind, or hydroelectric power, meaning the entire energy chain, from production to propulsion, can be genuinely clean. The efficiency numbers aren't perfect, The full water-to-wheel process currently runs at around 40 to 50% efficiency. That sounds low, but hydrogen's energy density, the amount of energy packed into a given weight, is significantly higher than lithium-ion batteries. The range compensates for the efficiency gap.